and welcome everybody to a very special edition of Behind the Scenes Mapping It Out. My name is Guy and I'm your host, taking you through tonight's show. Now, for those of you who are new to the show, we're going to be talking about the Battlemap editor first, and then we'll be talking about DEIOS. So we've got a lot to get through tonight. Some amazing demonstrations of some technology that we have been talking about for quite some time. Literally, when I saw the demonstration just before the show, I was like, oh, wow. Okay, this is fantastic. This is awesome. So lots to get through. Now, if you are joining us for the first time, or if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not watching it live, the show is live every Tuesday at the end of the month. So every Tuesday at the end of the month, I could have said that better. The last Tuesday of every month is when the show is live at 7 p.m. BST or about 10 a.m. Pacific time. So if you haven't managed to catch us live, now you know when you can, and then you can bring your questions, which we will try to answer as best we can. We're talking the Battlemap editor tonight, and when we look at what we're talking about Shadowrealms, we're talking about a new map pack, we're talking about contest winners, and of course, as always, our community highlight. Now, if you do have questions, please put the word question in caps lock in front of your questions so that I can see it. I've got my chat over there, so I will try and see that, and then I will be able to ask it. So that's how you do it. Now, let's get Till in and let's start talking about, well, battle maps. Till, how are you doing?
Hi, hello, everyone. I'm doing fine. I'm doing very good. I can't wait to show what we have today. I'm super excited. And yeah, here I am.
So it's, for many people, it's summer holidays or vacations, depending on which side of the pond you are on. And I know that various folks in the studio are going on holiday or have been on holiday. And I'm not pointing any fingers at all at someone who's been on holiday for quite some time. So generally, what is the studio mood like? What's DungeonFog Studios like at the moment, Till?
That's a really good question. I just got back yesterday. So I'm still trying to find my ways around and see how everyone's doing. Generally speaking, everyone's doing great because I think everyone's excited for today's show. We have really some cool stuff to show. Not only DEIOS stuff, also we have the Shadowrealm Contest, and there's a bouquet of amazing things that we show. Also, as you said, for us in Austria, the 2 months, July and August, are when schools are out and are summer vacation. It's summer vacation time. So most of our team have families, which means that we usually have our vacation planning somewhere between mid to end July into mid-August. So for August, everyone's trying to finish their stuff at the moment because somewhere between the next 2 weeks, most of the team will take 1 week or 2 week breaks to well-deserved take some time to load up their batteries.
Which I think is a good thing. Now, I hope you've been practicing your music because we've got an opening.
Yes, of course.
And here we go. I like that. Short and sweet. Okay, well, there we go. You definitely did some music training there, some choral training or something. That's lovely. Till, let's jump into it. Let's talk roadmaps for DungeonFog.
Okay, so as I said last stream, we're between things. So there's much going on. And all I can say in terms of development is that we're good on track. We are still working on the new asset picker and the loading performance boosts that are coming along with that. It's not in a state yet where I'm super proud to show it. But it is making fast progress. So I assume that by either the next time we stream, we already have it released, or we are doing the big presentation of this is coming now to DungeonFog. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, since we now have over 4,500 assets that we did as DungeonFog, plus I think around 20,000 assets from the marketplace, the way that you can pick and search for assets in the Battlemap editor is getting tedious, and we need to rework it. So while Andy, who is currently on vacation, will finish his part once he is back, which is the new interface for picking and selecting. We did a small, if you're interested, if you missed last month's stream, we did a few mock-up demonstrations there. So Andy has progressed quite far into that. But now it also is up to me to actually go in and tag all the assets with additional tags so that they're easier to find. And that is quite the Hercules task, because I saw that I have to tag 4,500 assets from our side with at least 3 to 5 additional tags. So that is going to take some time to be finished. But yeah, that's where we are. Anything else is still waiting to be tackled once especially like our big focus is the load performance boost that we want to bring with the new asset picker, because now when you open a map, you have about 30 seconds of loading time before the map comes up. And then you still have loading times until the assets are loaded. We've completely reworked that infrastructure and the pipelines, the channels to send those assets. So once we have that done, we can then actually turn to other things, like as you can see on our roadmap, there is the room drawing that wants to be updated, and a different way to create doors and windows, hopefully scalable then. We want to update light mechanics. And for the second half of the year, one big thing that's coming up for us is the V6 renderer, which then actually encompasses a lot of those new changes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've got a question here, Till. Two, as a matter of fact. The Incubus asks, within 2 months, with this asset picker update, would it also include the advanced paths?
Yes, the advanced paths were mostly done already, because Andy is like a surprise box. Sometimes he's like, we're throwing a task at him and he's like, that will take me a month. And then we're like, yeah, okay, sure. And then he comes back after 2 weeks. He's Scotty of Enterprise. And he comes back after 2 weeks and he says, it's done. Or as with the advanced paths, he came back and said, oh, like 90% of the advanced features I just did along with the rest. So there are a few things that we still want to improve with paths, especially when it comes to lighting and shadows. We know that there are still things that need to be done. But when it comes to path manipulation and stuff like that, there are only minor things that we want to tackle. So a lot of the advanced path stuff is done.
Fantastic. Another good question. This is another question, I should say. Is there a reason those tags won't be done similar to Steam, where the users add the tags? Would lighten the load on the devs as well.
That is true. We actually have discussed that. But so the fear is that if you hand that to all the users, they will start to tag things, but there needs to be a review to see if those tags are actually working, which means that we're kind of shifting the workload from starting with an initial tag list that we can come up with to having to monitor on a weekly or most likely weekly basis having to monitor the text suggestions for assets, and then filter out the things that probably aren't appropriate and stuff like that. So we decided that it's easier for us, instead of creating the infrastructure to manage those text suggestions, it is actually easier for us to sit together and start with the tagging. And I said I have to do all those tags myself. I know that Bodhi is going to tap in and help me a little bit, but I think it is Bodhi. It is mainly my responsibility to start with the base tag infrastructure or the base tag recommendations, and then the team will probably tune in. And of course, we will eventually bring a way where you can suggest tags to us, but we know that we definitely want to do user tagging in the future where you can assign your own tags to assets. They're not being recommended to the community, so they're not global tags, but they're your own custom way of tagging assets. And that is part of the rework of our asset manager. But that is going to happen next year. That's not going to take place this year.
Interesting. And I've got a question myself on that one, but there's more questions coming through from chat tonight,
Nice.
which is fantastic.
Keep 'em going.
So why not have the tags added when subscribed users individually add the same tag 5 or 10 times? That might help you curate your tags.
That's actually, that's absolutely true. There are very good strategies to do that. However, it still needs a programmer to code that behavior, the logic behind it. And at the moment, everyone in the team is working on so many different things, but we want the new tags to be out. And when all the programmers are already busy, who's left to do the shit job? I need to tag them. We also thought about handing out a list of all the assets and their names and just say, hey, can you help me? Give me a few tags for each. But honestly, I feel like I do feel like it is not your responsibility to do tagging. This is our responsibility. So this is my task for the next weeks, is just sit there and do the tagging.
A question not necessarily related to tags, but definitely related to your update. Does the DEIOS integration, which is part of the V6 renderer, does that mean we can build maps offline on the DEIOS tool by fourth quarter?
When you're talking about battle maps, yes. So the goal is that the whole, so that is part of the V6 renderer. Is our current renderer is, let's say it's a client-based browser renderer. So it is running on your browser client, which means that it can't, for example, we would love to have server rendering where in the back end of our server, maps are being rendered. So if you have a gigantic map and you want to have that rendered, but your local machine can't handle it, you could push that map to the server and it could render the map for you. Also, this means that the whole Battlemap editor, once it is server capable or can run as a server, it means that we can integrate it into the DEIOS application, where it then can run as kind of a server application inside DEIOS, which answers your question. You don't need an internet connection for that. You just have to, I mean, you need the internet connection to download new asset packs, of course. But basically, once you have the packs on your machine, you can run the Battlemap editor inside DEIOS offline.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll get that soonish. Hashtag
next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the V6, I imagine, is quite a process of building and testing and. All right. So if we move on, now recently there was a new map pack released, which if you are like me, I'm ashamed to say I was using DungeonFog yesterday for a map to make a tree for my players to have a battle inside a tree. It's a very big tree. I haven't yet used these assets, the Shadow Realms. Till, talk to us about the Shadow Realms.
Well, okay. We are, and we always have been big fans of the Netflix show Stranger Things. We have been watching them from the beginning. And when the latest season came out, we were like, oh my God. Just looking, and I'm not going to spoil anyone who hasn't seen season 4
because I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm not spoiling, but there is like, at least I have to tell that there is a different world that the kids are traveling to. And the way that they have displayed this world and the way that they have displayed the lair of the big boss was just so stunningly beautiful. And we were all typical office chat where everyone was like, hey, did you saw the first episodes? And everyone was like, yeah, did you see that scene? And everyone was like, oh, that would be such a great battle map. So we said, okay, let's do a special thing. Let's see what we can do for something where people want to create something like this Shadowrealm, this upside down world to their own battle maps. And let's be inspired by season 4. And so we have created this asset pack here. And we said, okay, if we want to do this, it would be really cool to see what people are actually doing with it. So we started a contest, I think about 2 weeks ago, that was show us your Shadowrealm. How would your Shadowrealm look like? And we asked the community to contribute with maps. And we got, I think, 13 map submissions, which are, all of them were really cool. And we said, okay, we are going to pick 3 winners. So it wasn't a community-based voting system this time. It was a team-based staff pick where we said, okay, from all the submissions, the team reviewed them, and typical 5-star system could give 5 stars. And the 3 maps with the most internal voting from our team, they are now officially the winners of the map contest, the Shadowrealm map contest. By the way, the image that you're seeing here, if you think that Bodhi did this in Photoshop, that is completely done in DungeonFog.
It's phenomenal.
It's absolutely insane. When I saw it the first time, I was like, oh, nice job in Photoshop, Bodhi. And Bodhi was like, look at that. And then he opened the DungeonFog map. I'm pretty sure if you kind of nudge him a little bit on Discord, he will share the map with you and you can look at how he made it. But we are going to see another map as part of the staff pick that kind of already crosses the border from being a battle map to being just a poster art piece. So we're blown away by the stuff that people are doing.
That was a question I was going to ask you, actually. Why 3 winners and not just 1 winner, or a first place, second place, third place?
To be honest, I think because we were a bit afraid that it's going to be hard to judge. And with the contests, we're not that big of a company that you can say, oh, we're asking for a contest and we get 1,000 submissions. Sometimes we ask for a contest and we get 4 submissions. So we said, okay, let's do it the simple way. Let's say, okay, everyone who submitted got, I think, a participation badge, if I remember correctly. And from those submissions, we pick 3 maps because we feel like if we just pick 1 map, that might be really hard to decide internally on the team. Whereas if the team can bring their favorites, we can then evaluate and see and say, okay, we can agree on 3. I think that was mainly the thought process behind it.
I like that. And let me tell you, folks, when you see these 3, Yeah, you're going to understand. I beg your pardon. You're going to understand exactly what we're talking about. All right, let's jump into it. And so, in no particular order, this is the first of the winners. No, it's not. This is all the maps that were submitted.
Yeah, those are all the maps that were created.
So
That's
close.
fine. So this is the first winner map. It's called
Montage.
Montage Madness. No. This is just a montage of all the submitted maps that we got. And if you look at them, we're not going to go through all submissions because we want to talk about other stuff today too. But you can find like one of the I think one of the requirements was to make them public, so you can find those maps in our community hub. We are also going to create this week a news announcement where we are going to show the winner maps, and maybe I'm not in charge of that. We will ask Bodhi. Maybe we have a list of all submissions there too.
All right, so now let's get to the first winner.
Now let's get to the first.
This
winner.
one.
Yes.
Look at that.
So this one is let me quickly check.
Loki Tempetore.
Loki Tempetore, thank you very much. And it's kind of I'm not sure if you can see it very good through the streaming, which is always a problem. That's why we're going to share the map soon, and you can explore it. This is kind of a creepy Shadowrealm garden, and I think to me, what was speaking to me were two things, especially. It has some Feywildish aspect to it, with all the flowers and the wildlife or the floral life that you can see here, but still the user managed to make it creepy. So the way that those flowers are emitting light, or maybe maybe those are even spores, I don't know. Maybe this is kind of some fume that is coming out of the flowers. It has this eerie touch. You're not really certain whether or not you want to explore that garden. And then there was, I hope we can see it. I tried to enlarge it a little bit with a kind of a zoom in the image. There is a really clever way of making a creepy statue, because that statue actually does not exist as such. This is a combination of, I think, one of the Elvish statues, and then, yes, exactly, and then the ritual skeleton put on top. But the way that those two assets work together, I never, like, I'm stealing that. I'm definitely going to steal that. There's going to be much more of those creepy skeleton statues in my games soon, because they're working perfectly together. And Loki also did a lot of color adjustments so that everything is kind of more well balanced. So I think congratulations. This was a map that everyone was really amazed when we saw that, and it has, I think it touches all points. It's using brushes, it's using colors, it's using atmosphere, a good combination of assets, and it's using the new Shadowrealm assets, of course. So it is quite an intriguing map, and we all loved it very much. So congratulations.
That's it. I love the layering, and those Venus flytraps have been with DungeonFog for such a long time.
Yes.
But we're always slightly overexposed, or I don't know, washed out a little bit. So you always have to increase the saturation, and I see they've done that too. But just delicately place them around. It's lovely. All right, are you ready for number 2?
Yes, well, I am ready for number 2.
You're ready for it. Okay.
So
this is by NBR #3003.
Yeah. So NBR did a really amazing map here.
Yes.
And again, I can only recommend, go to our community hub, check out the map by yourself. It has so many lovely details. So first of all, it looks like this is kind of a nether thing where you have to crawl between different planes. So we can see this is a 2-level map with 2 stories here. first floor, second floor. And you have to crawl above those tentacles, those veins, the roots that he placed there, that are connected by, I wish I had a mouse, I want to point at stuff, by those glowing orbs. Now, it took me some time to figure out how the user actually made it, that it has this depth, this deepness to the map, where you feel like things are getting lost in this netherish fog, and there's a lot of perspective to it, which is really amazing. Another thing that Bodhi pointed out when I think this probably was Bodhi's favorite map. What Bodhi pointed out was that it is such a clever way to create tension by unaligning the room from the grid. It might be a bit problematic to play on that map afterwards, but just in terms of creating the tension, having a slightly rotated room makes it super interesting. And then also you can see if you go into the building and then up the stairs, you then have a second story that is connecting other flying rooms through those organic veiny tentacle things. So this is not only a map that is aesthetically pleasing on the first look, but it's also so much fun to explore all the details. And when you're a map maker, you go like, how was that made? Oh, interesting. I love it. I think NBR, great job.
That really pop out for me. As you say, the depth is just phenomenal. Making the orbs different sizes and layering things on top to make them darker so they seem further away is brilliant. I personally just really like the fact that the architecture works. The chimneys are for both sides, which is what you do if you're building a fireplace and you've got an adjoining wall, you put them on either side. Those are just little touches that I think no player is ever going to really care about, but they're just lovely, I think, anyway.
Well, honestly, I think if you throw that map at your players, the next 5 minutes, they will just shit their pants and will be like, oh no, boss fight's coming up. We're so screwed. Because that is scary. That's a scary map. I would love to bring my players into that Shadow Realm.
Absolutely. It's really stunning. And then the last winner, but not the final. Well, it's the final, but not the last, not the first, not the second, but the third.
But not the least.
Not the least.
So introducing, coming into the contest at the beginning, I said, I praised Bodhi for doing more of an artsy approach of using DungeonFog. Now we can see a second user. I think we all know him. That is, I think it was Lord God, if I remember correctly. Who did the final map that we're going to show.
And here we go.
Sorry, it was a Battle Source.
Battle Source.
It was Battle Source. And this is a piece of art. I'm not even sure if I want to play that or if I just want to hang it as a poster somewhere. At the beginning, when I was looking at the map, I thought that the upper area, the upper piece that you can see, thank you, there, that this is kind of a headbanner that is more like a decorational part to the map. And later I realized, no. This is also the boss room. But this is a broken stairway that connects two platforms in a very, very creepy way with a lot of corner decoration and frame decoration elements and beautiful lighting. So yeah.
The framing, I think, is, as you say, it sort of sets it apart. It's like, is it a map or is it not a map? And also the bats, these giant bats just floating around are a great sense of perspective because we can see that they're different altitudes, because the lighting is different as well. Just, as you say, phenomenal amount of artistic work in here, as well as use of that color. Really, 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 really powerful. Till, I think that brings us to the end of the competition.
Yes. So again, thank you very much, everyone, for your participation and your map suggestions. We're going to share them so you can actually investigate and learn from them if you like, or just grab them and play and throw your players into absolute dismay by pushing them into those shadow realms. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating. There are more contests coming up in the near future, so keep an eye out if you want to participate. As always, there is a participant badge that everyone can earn. Also, there are rewards that we hand out, winners badges and stuff like that. So keep an eye out for that. And if you want to know how this contest concluded, I think in the next couple of days, we are going to make the official news announcement on the contest on our website in the news section. So keep an eye out for that too.
I think Bodhi's already just launched it right now, as a matter
There you go, Bodhi. Perfect. So it's live already. Check out in the chat. It's I think it's at the moment it's the Twitch chat. I'm not sure if it's being posted across.
It's in YouTube as well.
Okay, there you go. So there you can see everything and marvel at the beauties that have been created for this contest. I hope everyone enjoyed the assets. If you want to give us feedback, we're more than happy. Tony, who's drawing all those assets, is always up for some feedback. So let us know in Discord. If you don't know the Discord link, pretty sure someone can post it too.
There we go. Staying with maps, we're going to move over to our community page. So Till, stand by for some more of your fanfare.
Yes.
Here we go.
Aha! Woohoo! Woohoo!
All right, well, we're back here because I couldn't find the page. I've got so many different categories. I'm like, wait, where do I go from there? That's the opening. And you just threw me off with that. So,
sorry.
Let's go to the community spotlight.
Yes. So every month. Sorry, you go ahead.
If you are a person capable of making music that is pleasing to the ear, perhaps there might be some opportunity for you to write some music. And just saying, 7 seconds would be perfect. Anyway, community spotlight. Till, take it away. What's the community spotlight all about?
Okay, now you're taking away my great.
Just giving others an opportunity to shine as much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. So every month we are reviewing creators from our community that we just find very interesting, where we feel like those are amazing maps. They are good to play. They look aesthetically pleasing. They have that little twist. So we're looking at users who really know how to use DungeonFog to create amazing maps. This is, since we're getting the question quite often, how do you apply for that? The best way to apply for it is create public maps, because then we're reviewing the public maps that are being posted. We're reviewing them on a regular basis. And if someone is constantly posting great maps to the community, then we are definitely going to notice you. And then we're like, okay, that might be a candidate for our next community spotlight. So this is, again, this is kind of a staff pick that we present, where we feel like we want to shine the spotlight for a second on some of our community members who have done an amazing job so far. And we want to kind of say thank you to you as well. And this month we're looking at Ava. There you go. Yeah,
Ava.
You might
absolutely.
You might switch the page.
Ava has done. Yes.
Yes. You can find Ava at their Community Hub profile, and you can explore all the maps that are, I think it's 40 maps. So they haven't already, they've already been Ava has created 40 maps for the DungeonFog community, and all of those maps come at, I think, very good quality. They're super interesting. They have all the details, and they're. I might have actually 2 or 3 maps from Ava in my own games where I play in the office group, where I was like, "Ooh, nice! I can use that." So just go to the community hub and check out Ava. Here we can see a very like beautifully created dwarven. Yes, I think like not only the architecture, because that's an interesting. It's very dwarvish from the way that the rooms are being created. It has this. It's almost like a maze or a hammer from the general shape. It has those different rooms, so it plays to the explorational part for players to explore those different rooms. And there's just so much going on without overfilling the map. And yeah, and then again, using light sources cleverly, I think it's a brilliant map. It's one of my favorites from Ava.
Yeah, I love the little secret door here with the trap rune leading into the piles of cash and gold and that sort of thing. I think that's lovely. What I also like is the fact that they've incorporated curves, but not overly so, and at the same time the curves feel right. So the curve here in the armory, the curve over here for the statue alcove, the little curve over there, not overused. Not every room has a curve, not every room needs to have a curve, and then just the steam to make these pipes feel like they're hot. You really get that sense of temperature.
I think I brought 2 other maps. So this one is a super simple map, to be honest. I think
Bridge.
But the way that it was created is I love looking at the details there. When you look at the way that, first of all, the cutoffs are made, that looks kind of correct. It creates an interesting broken bridge where you can almost feel that the supporting columns that are in the lava below, that they are beneath those dragon statues. And then if you think about that, then the bridge would break like that, and it would be just a supporting beam standing there. So I think that is really, that's a great map. I love it. I love looking at it every time.
And it serves its function. We can very clearly see.
And it's, I mean, we're talking about battle maps here. We're not specifically talking about, not everything has to be an art piece with hours and hours and hours invested to make it shine. I think when you know what you do in DungeonFog, you can create something like that in probably 15 minutes. But the way that everything is with the shadows and again, with those little crumbled areas, it's a perfect battle map for players who want to cross a bridge and need to do some skill challenges, have a combat there that gets interesting if more of the bridge breaks away or if the bridge starts to shake. It's instantly creating an interesting atmosphere for players, so I like that map a lot. And then we have another bridge, which I also liked, A, because it's also already using our new paths tools, and B, because it has, again, I think from players' perspective, it has so many interesting details in there.
Absolutely. I do. It does have a nice sense of depth as well. You get this sort of precipitous feeling. There is a question here. Do community spotlight people know that they've been spotlit?
Well, yes, usually yes, because we are, at the beginning, we were like, we just do a spotlight, that's fine, and we will post it on Discord, and maybe they notice, maybe they don't. But we have started to reach out to them, to send them a little questionnaire with some just DM questions to give them a bit more spotlight to present themselves. So usually we reach out to spotlight people and say, hey, we have a few questions. Would you like to answer them? We would like to feature you in our next spotlight. Hopefully they respond. Then they know that they are being spotlighted. If they don't respond, hasn't happened yet. But if they would not respond, we would still do a spotlight, but then obviously without the questions being answered.
There you go. There you go. There is a question about Ava's hub page. They can't seem to find /Ava. So hopefully someone who's watching will be able to post up the chat and chat the link for Ava's hub page. Till that brings us to the end of the Battlemap update for this month. And if you're not going to be staying around, watch social media for when the next show will be happening, as there's quite a lot of stuff that's going to be happening in the next 2 months. So watch social media for updates on when the next mapping it out drops. Sorry, words gone, brain mush. I'm trying to read a script and not read a script at the same time. So yes, watch social media. And we're now going to be jumping into DEIOS, and this already has its own opening music. So Till, you can take a breather. Oh, it doesn't have opening music.
Da-da, DEIOS, DEIOS.
Oh, you have way too much fun on that. You have way too much fun on that.
Slides are being misshifted. That's probably my fault.
I forgot about the I've even got a note here to talk about the deprecation.
No, that's just still for those of you who tuned in for DEIOS, sorry, this is still Battlemap stuff. We are going to deprecate our old version 3 of the Battlemap editor. It's just a version change. Keep in mind, if you want to update your maps manually, do that before August 29th. If you feel like, I don't want to do that, don't worry. They will automatically be updated to version 5 on August 29th. The biggest problem that can come up with is that your brushes might not look 100% the same as they did on the version 3 map. So if you want to be super accurate, make sure that you update those brushes yourself. Otherwise, let the software do it. That's it. Now we can go to DEIOS.
DEIOS, there we are. There's a serious question that's come in. When is the Kickstarter for Till's first original soundtrack?
That's a good question. I'm still collecting. Like, I'm working on so many soundtracks and bits and pieces.
Exciting titles. Interesting addition to music there. Right. So welcome to the Mapping It Out for Project DEIOS, where we get behind the scenes into the DEIOS software and get an insight as to where we are. Tonight, we have got 2 technical demos for you of things that should make you fairly excited if you're like me. I really enjoyed seeing them. Now, if you have a question, use the word question in front of your question in caps so that I can see it, so that I can ask it to Till. Tonight, we are talking, well, I don't want to give it away too early, but let's just say this should get your water flowing.
Nice.
So, Till, before we get there, let's talk roadmaps. Let's see, where are we, what is going on, and what can we expect?
So last Mapping It Out, I already said that we are in between projects. Or in between big tasks. And none of those tasks can be achieved in a month. They all take a bit longer. So what we're currently working on is Tectonics II. That we're also going to see today, progress that we've made. And we're working on the Rivers and Roads tool, as well as the copy and paste clipboard, so that you can take stuff and copy from one map into the other. This is a status update today, so we're looking not at final stuff, but we're looking at the road that we have already taken so far and where we are on that road. So that you can get a better understanding of where everything is heading. We do feel that we might get all of that finished by September. So our goal would be, it's probably not going to be end of August, because there's really still a lot to do. But in September, I'm pretty confident that we can release those things to you alongside with, it's not on the list here, alongside with the new assets, the new reworked and optimized assets from Keora, where we will then start to roll out all the other asset packs over the rest of 2022.
And you were mentioning there's quite a lot of new assets coming our way.
It's not just so it's the I think the basic asset pack was about 125 assets, and Keora already told me that the new pack, which will replace the old assets, comes with a lot more assets. So I think it's 250 now for the base pack. And then there will be dragons and titanic creatures. We already have them. They just need to be adjusted a little bit. But then we have the orcs, the elves, something else. I can't remember. Dwarves, probably. I can't remember. And then we have different settings, which is cyberpunk was one of the settings that was requested. And I can't remember what the other one was, but there's still a lot coming. But the new base pack got upgraded from 125 to 250-ish, probably even more.
Fantastic. And so yes, moving forward, and tonight's demo is definitely about moving forward. So do you want to go into the demo straight away, too?
Oh, yes, sure. We're starting with the...
We do have a little video opening for it.
For it? What would we do?
It's called the preview video. So we have to do another thing first.
Well, then...
You have to do more music.
Yeah, that's fine. I love doing music. Previews! Previews! Oh, yeah!
All right, well, that will get rid of you. No, you're not actually gone. Hopefully,
I am going to be gone because I couldn't manage my OBS to actually run the camera and the screen share at the same time. So we'll just hear my voice, but see my screen. I think everyone can live with that. So what we are looking at is Tectonics. We have quite thoroughly, quite drastically improved our Tectonics system, which first of all starts with, if we go in here so that you can see, which starts, it's still, that's why I said we're still in the way of improving stuff, but we have now found a good way, performance, not a performance intense way to actually round the coastline curves. If you remember, our previous coastline curves were still edgy. There was no rounding to them, which made those maps look very technical. So now they are rounded. They are probably too rounded at the moment. So this is something that we just play around with and try to optimize, find the right balance. But the other thing that I'm not sure if the streaming actually allows it to notice is that it has some kind of auto color to it. Now, it's not super interesting for the flatland. So what we did was, and we're going to see, it's going to make more sense the deeper I go into the topic. But we have created, and I think the best way is to actually show it here on the sidebar. We have created several different things, presets that you can set up that are affecting the way that you draw a map, a landmass. You can choose between two different types of landmasses. You can create an island or a continent. So those, for example, are currently continents. The difference is that the way that the outlines are created will differ, because islands usually have, depending on their island type, have different coastline effects than full continents have. So if you are in the island, you can actually then kind of, we're calling it island type, which is terrible. So the naming will be rewarded. But this is more like a climatic or climate effect. It could be continental, oceanic, tropical, archipelago, and atolls that you can create here. And here you have the climate. Sorry, my bad. This was the climate part. Tropical, dry, temperate, continental, and polar, which will affect the color palette applied to this. So I've created a few of them for you to see. This is all, so if we're going into that direction, this is all temperate. So here we have flatland, then we have mountainous, and if you can see, it automatically creates the colors, the base colors for where you want to put your mountains then. So it auto-suggests already areas like forests that are around the mountains, the mountain ranges that might be created here, the grasslands, the drylands, and we might even find a way to bring beaches in there as well. This is, and I'm really proud of Ilya who did the job there. This is actually based on several different simulation libraries that do tectonic simulation. So this is quite thoroughly done. It works with erosion, it works with tectonic simulation, and then with a kind of a noise shader being applied to it. Oh my God, my phone is ringing. I'm sorry. That's typical. My dad loves to call me when he knows I have a stream. He might even remind me that I have a stream. My bad. So next one, this was mountainous. Next one is glacier. So the difference for continents continents or islands that are being created by glaciers is that glaciers, when they are retracting or expanding, they're often leaving behind a lot of water bodies. So they're washing out a lot of the area. And you have those, all those little details here. And they are, again, customly generated, but then you can see you have also those mountain ranges and those darker and lighter areas. And then we have fjordic generation, which creates those kind of fjord-based coastline shapes, which I think is also really interesting. And I'm not sure if there's coming more here. No, there are a few more samples. I didn't put them there. Not all of them are working. But now we can see the same thing with a dry color palette being applied. So this is, again, flatland, which is, as the name says, rather flat. So not a lot of mountain ranges, just very soft transitions. Here we actually need to work on our color palettes because they are currently reversed. So the light areas are the lowest and the dark areas are the highest. I think that might be a little bit confusing at the moment, so we're going to rework that. Again, this was mountainous, so there would be here a mountain range, here a mountain range, here, and that could potentially be some kind of desert. Then we have, again, the glacier effect, this time much heavier. So the glacier reduced almost all of that already. And this is another one that is fjordic, although here I left it like that because here you can see how the erosion of those fjords are being created. And I think that is quite interesting to see. And then let's speed this up a little bit. Then we have polar regions. So here we can see the same thing with a polar color palette being applied. And the idea behind those things is that we can auto color. Oh, where do I want to go? Here. That we can auto color such landmasses for you that when you then go in and say, okay, look at that here, I have a mountain range. So the software is saying here might be a good place for a mountain range. And you can then just place the mountains here. And ideally, again, those are props are being reworked, but ideally they will then very nicely blend with the base color. And now we are also getting into the area of biomes. next step will then be, once we touch biomes, to use those areas to auto-populate them with assets already, because we can do that. We have all the areas, we can identify them, and we can actually auto-populate them with forests, with rivers. However, before we do that, Ilya has already pointed out that it only makes sense when we also get the climate model working, because we want to have a climate map in there as well. That will help us very much to identify, based on the climate zones, what kind of assets need to go into what place on a map. So that's that. I think that already is quite cool. But then it was honestly more just to understand how our height maps are working. Then we also said, okay, what if we add a light shader and some more erosion models to it? And then we've actually created those here. This is just a giant mountain. This is a mountain range on, again, we can zoom in here so you can get a better view of it. So this is a mountain range. And then the land surrounding it. And we were like, oh, shit, that's actually, artistically, that's a completely different approach to the map making that we're planning. But that's quite beautiful and easy to do for us. So to be absolutely honest, we love it. We just don't know yet how we can actually work that into the software. And we are now sitting and are discussing, do we want to have two different kind of artistic approaches to map making, where you say, okay, do we want to have the hand-drawn style that is more working with the, I think I can demonstrate what I'm talking about. So if I put let's say I put a town, and that still works. Putting a town here is fine for the map. I think people will understand that there's a town here. But once you start adding in mountains or trees, it kind of gets weird, because those are two different perspectives. This is already a mountain range, whereas those are let's call them isometric mountains that you bring in there. So we have a clash of two different artistic approaches here. And we're not going to take that away, this approach. We just need to figure out a better way to give you the option to choose between those art modes. Yes, it is very blurry. I saw that in the chat. This is because we still need to balance the performance and the creation, because I can show you what happens if I want to create something like that. It's either going to crash or it's going to, let's do a mountainous thing, climate temperate, that's fine. Or it's going to take a minute because this is prototype area where we are currently experimenting and tweaking around things. So if I create this, yep, wrong tool, my bad. I need to go here. So if I create this, it's now creating the shaders, it's creating the light, it's creating all of that, and that can take quite long. So we need to optimize stuff, and we're currently balancing between. You feel like it's crashing? No, I think it's going to make it. The street, yep, there you go, you made it. But it's a question of if I can zoom in as close as possible. You can see there's a lot of artifacts there. It's still not super. Let me get rid of that big brush here so you can see stuff. Like we have all those artifacts here, and it is very blurry. All those knobs and tweaks and buttons we can still push and adjust. But we're currently in the process of actually figuring out how to make the best of it. And that's where we are when it comes to Tectonics. So the good news is this part up here, where we have just the Tectonic-based coloring of maps, that is, I feel like almost done. We just need to figure out all the different color palettes so that they're nicely working. We want to adjust them to the new assets, work with Keora about the color palettes there. But this, I think, this is very close to where we want to be. And this is very close to what we wanted to achieve with the goal of having pre-colored landmasses. Whereas this is still very experimental, and we're going to look at it and understand what we can do, want to, and will do with it in the future.
Till when do we get to play with this?
So, as I said, this is just creation at the moment. We can create it, and as you can see, it kind of, the software freezes, it starts to render, sometimes it's crashing. We need to polish this a lot. And we haven't even touched yet the manipulation part, where you can lower that mountain or raise that mountain, where you can actually add landmass or combine a glacial model to a mountainous model. You want to subtract or add to those landmasses. I think it's safe to say that we can achieve all of this. I hope. I'm not going to say it's safe to say. I say I hope that we are going to finish this by the end of September, or even mid-September, depending on how much left to do. But then you will get it, and then you can play with it. And that isn't the end of the road. That is just then again a stable build that we can hand out that you can play around with, and then we will see what feedback we get from you, and we will keep working and improving. Yeah.
Fantastic. Is that all on the demo side, Till?
Well, that's all on the...
For now, because we've got another demo coming up.
But if you want me to switch back to my other screen, you just give me a countdown.
Back. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, and switch. Almost flawless.
Almost flawless.
Almost flawless. Tectonics looks really, really cool. So the next thing that we talk about, rivers.
Yes.
Which kind of go hand in hand with Tectonics.
Yes, in many ways. We're going to talk about that in a minute. You have to give me a second because I need to run the rivers build. They're currently still two separate builds. The one is the Tectonics that Ilya is working on, and the other is the rivers build that Nikita is working on. And when I asked them, they said, yeah, we can give you our prototype builds, but they're separate. So you need to actually run two different builds here. And while I'm stalling, it is currently starting up and booting the second build.
Fantastic. Now, when we talk about rivers and roads, when it came to roads, what was your approach in terms of how to draw them? Is it just a line, or did you want them to have more detailing than that? What was the goal, or what is the goal, I should say?
Sorry, I was a little bit distracted. Can you ask again?
Yes. So when it came to designing the roads, because there's lots of map making software that has roads, and sometimes it's just very, very simple. Sometimes it's almost too simple, and then it doesn't look as if it fits as part of the map. So has there been or is there going to be an approach to make the roads feel as if they are as hand-drawn as if Keora had made them?
Yes, because we are working very close with Keora on things like that. Like we have for the coastlines, for the waves, the water waves, there's a back and forth where Keora reviews stuff and gives us feedback on how we can improve. And now you have been saying the roads. There's an interesting info bit. We currently are thinking of changing the rivers and roads tool into the rivers and lakes tool, and have roads as a separate tool, because we realized that rivers and lakes or water bodies are much closer, and we can do with the tools that we have, we can do more interesting stuff with it. I'm trying to open the build. There you go. But yes, the thing is, so what we're going to see in a minute is not there's no art to it. This is just a technical demo of what we want to do and the approach that we're taking. And once that has been done, we will actually then think about the best way to artistically work that into the map.
Makes sense. I have some other questions here that we can jump into just before we go forward on the river demo.
Yep.
Have you ever played Stronghold Crusader? Did you ever play the Stronghold games? You got to build a castle.
I think I don't know. I had it, but
The first one was the best one in my opinion. You can fight me on that later. But have you ever made have you ever made maps in these? It's if you haven't, perhaps have a look at how these work, and maybe it might give you some inspiration. So not so much of a question, more as a suggestion, really. Then another question is, have the devs worked on separate builds at the same time like this before? Referring to the rivers being on one build and Tectonics on the other.
If you
Is there any worry about things not being compatible when they try and smoosh the two together?
So yes, that has happened before, and no, we're not worried, because I'm really proud. Nikita came from a AAA game development space. Ilya came from a AAA game developer space. They know how code reviews are done properly, how they can merge code, how they can make sure that what they are doing, actually when branches are being merged, that they work together. There's often, I mean, it doesn't work flawless. Sometimes we have to go back and forth and fix things, but generally speaking, working on different builds or different branches is common on developing days. So yes.
All right, are we ready for the rivers demonstration?
Yes, sir.
All right, in which case, let's switch in 3, 2, 1, switch.
Okie doke. So again, this is first concept approach of how we want to do rivers. And you should be seeing my little mouse cursor. And when I click, I can create a river point where the river starts to flow. And then I could potentially just define the ending. And currently we can see a little offset here. That's not ideal yet, but two things are missing in that stage of development. The one is the curvature that would actually curve around those points so that you can use those anchor points to shift things around. And the second one is, of course, the growth of the river from the start to the end, so that the river starts to get wider and wider as it flows closer to the terrain. But what we can already do, or what we can show here, is that the way that we're doing it is we're creating segments, touchable segments that you can then edit, shift around and move. As you can see, you can define how many of those meander segments will or should be created, and then you can modify them. And when you're finished with it, it would then render the river. Now, this is a very boring river, so we can do another thing, and we can go like this and this. And as you can see, it always tries to create some kind of random offset to make a more interesting meandering of that river towards the lake. It's not round yet because we don't have the curvature in there, and we need to work on things where rivers suddenly start to kind of flow upwards again. It's kind of a top-down map, which means it could be possible, but from an aesthetic point of view, I think it might be a bit confusing. So easing out this flow and making it rounder is something that we definitely want to do. And then, of course, you want to go back into the edit mode and edit those rivers. However, which I think was very impressive when Nikita came up with that idea was, let's go somewhere here, was how do we actually, and I think that is a problem that not many map making tools have actually solved at the moment. How do we go about river deltas? Because usually a rivers start to fork off and create sub-rivers and or have additional rivers joining the big river. So how are we going to do that? And Nikita proposed, I think, a very interesting approach to that, where when you create a segment, you can actually define this as a split segment, and we can come back to that in a minute. So we could say, okay, this is a split segment, and now it's going to go here. But starting from that split segment, I want to create another split segment that now flows. And that was an interesting offset here. That flows here. And starting from that, I want to go even a third time. Well, that was quite weird too. Here.
It's a magical river.
It's a very, yeah, well, yeah, it's, again, I think everyone can understand that we're prototyping here. And then I can jump back to that segment and I can go, okay, but we also want to have another river. Oh, God. That is...
a gnomish river.
It's a very
designed by gnomes,
yeah.
And they realized that sometimes rivers had to flow over themselves to actually get in the right direction.
But I think everyone's getting the idea of what you can do with it, because now you can easily create subforks from each of those river segments. And of course, in the future, you can select such a point and turn this into a forking point. So, which means the whole river is one object that we can treat as a continuous thing to render into the map. Because aesthetically, I mean, this of course looks terrible at the moment. But aesthetically, it gets interesting when it works with the whole landmass rendering. By the way, in this build, you can see the old not rounded edges. So potentially, if you want to do a nice river at the moment, you would have to do something like this. And the challenging part about that is often the end point that should actually blend within the coastline. And then you want to have some kind of lineage, outlines, lighting, probably color effects to it that make it interesting. Having one river object allows us to do a lot of stuff with that. And that's where we are at the moment with rivers. So the stage one actually is kind of the technical concept with the prototype. We have seen the prototype is promising, so we're going to follow that road. And now we're going to add more of curvature and kind of get rid of those weird offset things that are happening. And once we have that, we can then go for the manipulation of those points. And when that is done, we can then finally add the art style to it, and then we're happy with it. And same as with because we have two different people working, we're quite confident that we can finish this in September as well.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And I can see how this could apply to roads as well, although roads you might want to have a slightly different approach.
Well,
but...
yes. So the thing is, we don't want to cram. I think we can switch back
sure.
if you like.
And 3, 2, 1.
We don't want to cram things into one tool, because you don't want to have a rivers, roads, and lakes tool just because it follows the same internal logics to create stuff. That's why I said we probably are going to split things up. Where we say, okay, internally, it's the roads tool. It even needs the forking. But if you would take a river, for example, and you close it up, you could create a water body out of it. We don't know if we want to do that, or if you want to select the river segment and you want to say, okay, in this segment, create a water body. Now that doesn't make sense for roads at all. So yes, we've established our first pathing for DEIOS, and we might use it on different spots. But not in the same tool.
Fantastic. I don't see any more questions on that. I do know that we are all very eager to see how both Tectonics and Rivers grow and just become better and better over the next few months. Till that kind of brings us to the end of tonight's show.
Yeah, I just saw the comment from Peter Kelly and I wanted to respond because he said rivers are not always round. Sometimes they take radical turns. Yes, absolutely. That's why you want to select those curvatures and adjust them. So you want to have the option to go, okay, put the curvature to the maximum and it gets super round, or bring it down to the bottom and you get a spiky edge where the river kind of thrashes around a ravine. Yes, we know that. That is absolutely something that we have in focus for doing that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Till, any last thoughts before we wrap up tonight's show?
No, I think I'm done.
When is the next show?
So yes, talking about the next show, I don't think that we can make a next show in August because I remember that you are being away at the end of August, and since there's a lot of vacation breaks in August, I'm not sure if it makes sense to actually pick up in August. So I think we're going to skip August, but then we will do a bigger show in September because hopefully then we will be reviewing all of the stuff that we're handing to you.
Exactly.
So it's not 100% decided yet. I would say for those of you who are here at the moment, chances are high that there is not going to be an August stream, but keep an eye to our Discord announcement or social media announcements. We will tell you whether or not we will make an August stream. Otherwise, we will be seeing each other in September
for a massive update. And no pressure on the devs, but that show in the last Tuesday of September is the day before my birthday. So if they want to give me presents, then they must just give me a lot of updates. And I will be happy. So, folks, thanks again for watching. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button if you are watching on YouTube. And you can catch both of these shows again on YouTube if you missed anything. If you want to go back and check up stuff or have a look at those demos again, you can find them on the DungeonFog YouTube channel. From both of us here, I think all we can say is thank you for watching and
happy map making.
Happy map making.